New outrage over the latest actions by Los Angeles' far-left district attorney George Gascon, announcing plans to disband the unit that alerts victims to their assailants' parole hearings by the end of the year. His office blames a staffing shortage for the move, which follows a controversial decision to ban prosecutors from attending those parole hearings earlier this year. The DA's office tells Fox News, quote, "While a victim has a right to be notified, they also have a right not to be contacted. After consulting with victim experts, we do not believe this is a trauma-informed approach. Contacting victims and their next of kin can be very triggering, especially if they do not welcome the intrusion." David, one of the deputy district attorneys there, Julianne Walker, pointed to the fact that the DA has also recognized that victim service representatives will be at those hearings. But she says, they're not attorneys. And when you take away the prosecutors at these hearings, and then you take away the victim's right to know, and you give them a service that essentially is a counseling, she said that's like putting a Band-Aid on something that really isn't a solution. And the reality is a right to know is still different and supersedes that right not to be contacted, which can be elective in that way.
A couple of days ago when this started coming out, I spoke to a friend of mine who's on a parole board, and people I know who've worked in the law enforcement community about this issue. The importance of impact statements, not only in the courtroom but afterwards from families, is something that needs to be considered. There's another problem here that goes to where Gascon's excuse about staffing. What have they done? It's not just police officers on the ground, but office staff and the support staff for these agencies that have left. So, yeah, he does have a problem with a staffing shortage, but the people shouldn't pay the price. Those victims' impact statements, their lives matter. Matter of fact, this also matters to police officers. They put away criminals. Criminals go back out and threaten their families. I have friends that that's happened to. That means a wife, a daughter, a son. I mean, think about what this is. Gascon is desperate, and frankly, he's lying to the American people, not only to the people he's supposed to serve, the victims, but he's lying to the American people when he says he knows how to bring down crime. He's everything the opposite in his policy and procedures.
Jenna, so David brings up the import of victims' impact statements, and that's partly because against the backdrop of sentencing, their statements can often persuade the parole board, we want to keep this guy off the streets, or we want to keep this girl off the streets. Jones Law arose from that, which was after her 7-year-old daughter was molested and killed. She attended the parole hearing every few years to testify to keep that guy off the street, and she eventually led to the laws passing, which said if you murder a below 14-year-old child during the commission of a sex crime, you're ineligible for parole. So yes, it was triggering for her each and every parole hearing, but it was necessary, she said, to ensure that monster was off the streets. Now, this DA has also done away with a lot of sentencing enhancements. So when you remove the sentencing in place, which makes the need for the victim's impact statements even greater, and then you take away the victim's knowledge about these hearings, it essentially tips the scale so far in favor of the defendant, so far away from a true neutrality of justice or giving any opportunity for justice. I think it's pretty clear that this is a wrong decision.
I really appreciate the nuance that you're taking this conversation, because it is gray. And as Harris and I were just talking about, everything seems to be so complicated. And whether or not you're talking about the video that was released in Texas too early yesterday and how it impacted some of the families when some of the other families were very eager for people to see exactly what happened and what the TikTok was. And I think this is where we have to take a big step back and say, listen, there's not a scenario where policy is always going to be able to thread this needle perfectly. Because the First Step Act that Senator Cotton went after for years under Obama was then ultimately signed by Trump, and that decreased sentencing for individuals. And I also think we have to look at crime in a really important, inquisitive, and civil way. If you look at counties and cities and states, crime is higher in red and Republican states more than it is in liberal cities. And so I think we have to stop saying, oh, it's just this policy by this one governor, mayor, president, and really take a step back and say there's some defendants that want space, there's some that don't, and what policies are and aren't working.
And also,
I'm sorry.
Blue cities crime is going up rampantly. So you can talk about red states, but let's talk about where the crime is happening.
Jacksonville is the murder capital of Florida.
Can I just address this from an actual factual point, not a deflection? There's two things that Bureau of Justice Statistics does, and I ran this in 3 states. It's called the Survey of Inmates in Local Jails and the Bureau of Prisons Survey of Prisons. Unlike you, I've actually interviewed, talked with, reviewed I don't know, thousands of cases from the criminal point of view. So I've also seen that and how they speak openly under seal when they're being interviewed. And what you've just said is a deflection from the actual issue. There are failures at multiple levels that have led to this. I have watched many cities, regardless of red or blue, the criminal doesn't look and say he's a Republican or a Democrat victim. The criminal, I don't care how they register, they're a criminal. But the victim has a right. And the victim has a right regardless. And Gascon or Alvin Bragg with his day one memo on prosecutions in New York, or any others, Kim Gardner, Kim Fox, all of these people are making it so the criminal gets more. It's emboldened, and you're seeing the rise in crime because criminals are now realizing they're more in control of the system. It's irrespective of red or blue. And it is a farce to sit here and detract just to red or blue.
And I think, let me just say, we're sitting in a city where someone who engaged in lawful self-defense at a bodega was sent to Rikers, okay? This is happening not because of Republican policies, but because of lawless DAs like Alvin Bragg, who on day one, as you said, put out a memo, we're not going to prosecute these crimes. Gascon, day one, we're not going to prosecute resisting arrest. What do you think happens? You have inmates sitting in jail in California who are celebrating the radical DA Gascon. So to act like this is happening in a vacuum, no, it is not devoid from policy. The policies being put forward, they're not just crazy blue policies anymore. They are anti-victim. We are in a place where the Democrat Party has become anti-victim, anti-police, pro-criminal, and we're living in the lawlessness of New York City. You don't believe me? Just come visit these streets.
Harris, you and I talk a lot about showing up to the table, right, in these conversations where there's a place for everyone. And what I've seen so many times in the criminal justice system is when judges say my hands are tied, or people, you know, certain participants in the criminal justice system say my hands are tied because of this sentencing, because of this statute, because of this policy. So the whole point of the import of these victim impact statements, of these things that account for that gray area, that account so that there's not just a my hands are tied, it says this can actually sway me to make a decision that's in the best interest of justice, regardless of party, and that acknowledges the horrific nature of criminal violent behavior and also acknowledges the need for compassion as well. But it allows people to have space to speak and be heard rather than be extinguished on the basis of a radical left policy.
Wow, there's so much to start with. I do want to hit the statistics about Democrat-led cities and how dangerous it is right now in many of them. I want to hit that. I want to hit it hard because my friend Gianno Caldwell has lost someone he loved so much, his baby brother in Chicago. We saw 55 people get shot in one weekend. That's what we learned. And then a few days later, we found out the number was 70. Okay? I mean, it is exhausting to think that we aren't going to be honest about the rise in violent crime in Democrat-led cities. So we can cherry pick where crime is rising in other lanes and other categories. But let's be real about the fact that that's the category we care most about. And you do have a friend, me. And I don't talk about the stalker who tried to kill me. Okay? I don't talk about it because it's a really low place. But the first thing he did when he got out was look for me. And if they hadn't told me, I don't know that I would be here. That was a lot of years ago, though. I partially don't talk about it because I don't want my girls to concentrate on it. It is irreprehensible to consider not giving us a heads up as crime victims. And I don't think that it is just bad policy. I think what we're seeing now is a collection of the world's only heart donors. And we can't tolerate that in a system that requires law and order. So, Jenna, I respect what you have read and what you're looking at. But as a violent crime victim, I have to tell you, I want you to read more and read deeper. And when you quote those facts, bring your attribution. Because some of us have lived it.
Thank you for sharing that story, Harris. I'm happy to provide the facts later. The sources, it was third wave.
All right, more outnumbered next. Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.